has seen us. Obviously, his value system is better than mine because he's willing to forego the benefit of that 500 rupees. So therefore, even in the case of bride, if you are willing to accept some delay in processing of your application, if you are willing to pay a certain higher taxes or certain higher levies because you don't want to pay bribes in the short term, in the medium term and long term, even the officers who want to take bribe from you will start respecting you. Because at the end of the day, the most dishonest officer wants to be seen as a role model in the eyes of his children, in the eyes of his spouse, in the eyes of his parents. Therefore, he wants to have a few transactions where he can say, look, I can sleep well because I did the right thing. Number one. Number two, the bad ones amongst them will realize that there is no return on investment for them to delay your application. Because they know that anyway you won't give any bribe. So the third or the fourth transaction onwards, you will not get into any problem because they will know that you won't pay, and therefore there is always a probability that you may go and complain. Or they may even assume that you know very senior people in the administration. Therefore they may say this is dangerous to ask these guys. So I do believe that if in the first 2 or at best 3 transactions, if you are willing to accept a certain price, a certain cost, then life will become easy for you. You will become a role model. Because at the end of the day, people want to be, even the worst, the most corrupt fellow wants to be seen as a decent guy. Let me tell you, in France, there used to be this concept called le bon juif, that means the good Jew. The way the work was like this. This was in early 70s, I'm talking about. One day I went to a party with a friend of mine, and I found that the hosts of the family were fawning on 2 old couple. The man and the woman, they were both in their 70s. They were saying, oh, please drink, please eat, please, all of that. So I asked my friend, oh, are there some VIPs or something? And she told me, I will tell you later. So later on when we are coming out of the party, I asked my friend, what is this? Who are these? Then she told me, this is a Jewish couple. And because in France those days, there was discrimination against Jewish people, which was sad, which is something highly abominable, something that should be condemned. They wanted to be seen as people who didn't discriminate. So what they did was, they would call one Jewish couple to the party, they would fawn on them, they would show extra attention, and let everybody else know that they are actually a Jewish couple. What that meant was that give them full freedom to discriminate against the rest of the Jewish people. Because every friend said, no, these people don't discriminate. Similarly, these corrupt fellows, by processing your application pretty fast, even though you are very honest, you don't pay bribe, they will make it known to all their colleagues so that everybody will say, oh, this is an honest man, he doesn't take bribes. So the point I'm making is there is a lot of value in your persisting with your desire to be honest. Now on the issue of what is it that we do so that it doesn't impact the country, I think the best way to inculcate this is through leadership by example. If we can have a set of leaders who are honest, who are decent, who believe in good behavior, And if they stick with it and if they demonstrate, I think by and large it will have impact. The problem we have is that that is somewhat rare today. Second, I think institutions like Lokpal will definitely make a difference, but they alone will not make the difference. The most important thing is for leaders at the top to walk the talk, to demonstrate by example, then it will automatically happen. For example, at Infosys today, we have decided on purchases of 1,000 crores. We thought, I mean, these are all done by, third level, fourth level people. We thought expecting a cup of coffee. It simply has happened because the leaders have set the standard. And leaders have communicated that any violation of this will result in immediate dismissal. So I think it's very important.
Good. So Murthy, I have an interesting question here. So this person says, I see the video, I see your answers, looks like you've been successful in everything. Have you ever tasted failure?
Well, I'll tell you, for example, I started a company called Softronics in Pune in 1976 to develop software for Indian clients. Those days, it's not like this, you couldn't import a computer, you had to go through an elaborate process, etc., etc. Therefore, I pretty quickly realized that that was not going to work and that I had to concentrate on the export market. So I quickly gave it up. So there have been many instances like this. Just giving you one. But the important thing is I learned a very important lesson. I analyzed why I was failing. And I also in some way studied what is it that I need to do. I realized I had to look at export market. Then that I realized if I had to go to export market, then I have to understand how export market works. Therefore, I joined a firm in Bombay. Then I also realized that if I want to enter export market on my own, I must have a customer who is so impressed with my group in terms of what we deliver that he or she will be able to make lots of concessions to us in terms of advances, etc., etc. And therefore, we focused very, very heavily on quality and productivity and customer service aspects. And because we were very, very high in these dimensions, the customer gave us 6 months of advance. The customer agreed that we will bill the customer at the beginning of the month, even before we delivered any service. And within 30 days, he had to pay. In other words, by the end of the month, the customer would pay. And then the customer also agreed, because we had no computers in India, all the services would be delivered in New York. So in other words, because the customers saw such a highly differentiated value proposition from us vis-a-vis others that he had the opportunity to work with, he was ready to make a lot of concessions. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. So Murthy, I think it doesn't matter whether it's a startup business, a medium business, a large business. You always have these sort of near-death experiences. You come to situations where you have a customer wants to buy something, but then you just don't have money to buy raw materials. Everything is going well, and then you have people issues. And there's every day, not every day, but every now and then you come through these sort of forks where it sort of looks like the end of the world. And so what strength do people draw to get through those difficult times and continue to build the mission that they're committed to?
Well, we had a similar situation in 1995 when General Electric came to India and they started renegotiating with all the 4 vendors that were working with them. And we realized that it was not in their interest, it was not in our interest to accept that. So after 16 hours of negotiation, finally we said, we declined their offer. Other companies, they all agreed. You know, TCS, Wipro and others, they all agreed, but we said no. At that time, GE was forming 25% of our business. It was a very tough decision. But before we said no to them, as we were discussing with them at Taj Residency in Bangalore, a group in our office in Electronic City was making plans on how to handle this gap. So what I would say is this, that when you come to a near-death experience, first you have to be very calm, very quiet. That's not the time when you can get upset. Second, you have to make this analysis of what life will be if you lost that opportunity, because that's very likely to happen. It's beyond you in some way. And you have to take quick steps. That is the time when you have to think fast and you have to take quick decisions. Now, I mean, there are many cases, I mean, I have seen when entrepreneurs, they went through their first experience, somehow it didn't work out, they were at crossroads, they were almost, they thought, everybody else thought they were completely sunk, but then they thought quickly and then they rose pretty well. So this is the time to believe in God. This is the time to believe in your friends, in your family. This is the time to accept the reality. This is the time to do fast thinking. This is the time to get to quick execution. This is the time to give confidence to your youngsters. And this is the time to rally them behind you.
Well, thank you. I hope each one of you have collected a lot of nuggets from Narayana Murthy. Let's give him a big hand. Now, I have a request for you. After you leave today, after the TiECon, I don't want you to go and take all these nuggets and leave them in a safe deposit box. You know, please put them to good use, and Murthy will be back here for next TiECon, and I would like each one of you to demonstrate the growth in your enterprises in terms of how you are able to take these nuggets and put them to good use. Will you do that? Yes. Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.